Welcome to Talon Talk with Jacob Fredericks, the first ever sports talk show and podcast here at Highland High School, directed specifically at Highland athletes, Highland teams, and all. Especially, we're going to talk to a lot of varsity teams, talk about them, go to watch their games, give some analysis on their games, and even maybe give a film breakdown or two. And we're going to have hopefully some conversations with some players and just hear what their experience is like playing here at Highland and how they're helping make Highland sports programs the best sports programs in the state of Arizona. So in today's episode, we're going to discuss our fall sports and mainly our two football teams who had incredible seasons. But first, we're going to talk about the boys football team who started off the season really strong against Shadow Ridge, Centennial, Chandler, starting off 5-0, and then came the rush patch in their season. To start the season, Kalen Fisher and Cruz Colmore and company. Unfortunately, Cash Allen was out with an injury for most of the season, and so that really hurt them in the run game. But guys like that, Highland was able to use their identity, which they've had for so many years, which is being able to run the football. And this year, they struggled in the middle of the season, and I think that's where the 3 losses in the regular season came from. They just were unable to really establish the run game and just get consistent offensive drives going in certain games, especially in that Red Mountain and ALA Queen Creek game, in which you just saw a lot of mistakes here and there. Like, they'd get to the 50-yard line, and then there would be a mistake, whether it be on the O-line, quarterback, the receivers, their running backs. There would be some mistakes, and I think if they could have just cleaned it up in a few games, a few different moments go their way, you're looking at a one-loss team that goes into the open and possibly is competing against Basha, ALA Queen Creek, Liberty for a state title in the open. But a few things didn't go their way, and Highland boys football found themselves in the 6A playoffs in the first round against Castile. And as you guys can see on the page, I won't just talk about that game going into the game too much, since you can find that on the YouTube page here on Hawk Productions. You can see the pregame show there. But Highland goes in as the favorite against Castile and starts off probably the best that they've started off a game other than the Desert Ridge game last week, which was they went up 24-0 in the first half and then had a chance to make it a 4-score game at the end of the half. And I think that's where the momentum shifted in that game. You could feel it after, unfortunately, Bubs threw that interception, trying to force it downfield to get to the end zone to really put the game away. They were in their best halves, and it ends up 24-0. And then the second half came. There's a couple moments I think that were really key in the game that led to Highland's ultimate unfortunate demise in that second half. I think one of them was Rhett Yetter. He got himself ejected from the game. I watched the film. I didn't see anything on the film that shows that he did anything, but it was unclear. It was unclear for me calling the game up in the broadcast booth what happened and what. So I would love to see if there was an explanation for that and what transpired there that led to his disqualification from the game. And then I think that's what really hurt Highland in that second half. What Castile did in that second half was they just ran the football, and they managed the clock. Even down 24-0, they managed the clock. They started the half with a 7-minute drive, and I think that it shifted momentum completely. Going on a 7-minute drive, running the ball however you want, and then ultimately cashing it in with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to keep it a 2-score game. And then Castile, just from there, it was all Castile until a little bit later in that fourth quarter when the Hawks were finally driving, and then one of the hardest moments to ever watch that I've ever watched in high school football or in person at a game. The ultimate injury, unfortunate for Jaden Collins. We're really hoping he's going to be okay. There has been some positive updates. We've heard that he's doing a lot better than he was, but it's still a very scary scene at Highland. And it was. I was calling the game there. It was kind of hard. It was kind of hard to call it because after that kind of thing, like being upset about the game is it is what it is. I mean, the game is what it is, but. Like those are the things that I think really matter in sports. Like, you know, if your teammate gets hurt, your brother gets hurt, or just someone like from your school, like that changes your perspective, and you've seen that across the sports world when tragedies happen in leagues, like DeMar Hamlin, for example, or among others. Like it's a difficult thing. It's hard to care about the football game after something like that happens, and I thought Highland actually did a good job after that of trying to get motivation back in the game, and it was 3rd and 6 from the 15, and this is where I think blowing a 24-0 lead isn't like something where I can just say, oh, the referees lost, the officiating lost us the game, or lost Highland. Like you can't say the officiating was the complete problem here, but I do think the officiating was very poor on Friday night, especially on those pass interference goals. I get letting them play, but you do have to call it at some point both ways. They threw one penalty for pass interference, and it was on Highland, and it was 100% pass interference. 100% pass interference. Did not turn his head. Absolutely face guarding. But the amount of times that Anthony Martin got tripped up on a deep pass, the amount of times that he got held, it was a little bit too much. And then on that 3rd and 6, in the fourth quarter, up by 2 points, a touchdown and an extra point puts the game away, puts them up 2 scores there. And they threw a corner route to Gavin Priest, and he gets held. And you can see it from the broadcast. I can see his jersey getting pulled the other way, and no flags. Highland, you could hear it on the Highland sideline if you watch the live stream or watch the broadcast. Like you could hear it on how mad the Highland sideline was, and they had every right to be in that case. And so I think the officiating didn't help this game, but for sure, up 24-0, it's hard to make an excuse for why Highland ultimately lost that game. And so Highland boys black boys football season is over, and so we'll talk about the Highland girls flag football team here. They had an amazing regular season in their 2nd season after last year being the 1 seed, but ultimately getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. And so they had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. New coach Kenny Galladay came in, and I did an amazing job. Only 2 losses in the season, a close one, a heartbreaker to Mountain View early in the season, and then a loss to Hamilton, who was the number 1 seed. Those are not bad losses by any means. Losing to the 1 and the 4 seed are not bad losses at all, and Highland easily could have gone undefeated if games went a little bit differently or were played on a different day. So one of the best seasons for Highland flag football, and they were led by quarterback Alexis Ely. And we'll get to all of the recognition stuff, but I spoke to Alexis Ely prior to this Mountain View game, and just wanted to hear what she had to say about the season and looking ahead to that Mountain View game.
All right, Alexis, you had about 3,000 yards this season, 28 passing touchdowns, 8 rushing touchdowns. What's contributed to your success for this flag football season?
Probably just like the coaches definitely helping me out, like getting me started the season without never being quarterback before, and then just like my teammates knowing that I can count on them.
Yeah, so your teammates. What's your favorite part of being a part of this team here at Highland?
Definitely the team, like all the players. I've gotten a lot closer to a bunch of them, and I already had close friends, so just being with them every day.
Yeah, and I know you're a dual sport athlete here at Highland. You play on the softball team here as well. What's that like, balancing all the different sports around? Because I know you probably play club outside of school here. So what's it like balancing the 2 sports?
Yeah, just making sure like keep it balanced, and like of course school first, and then just like focus on one thing at a time.
And so you guys play Mountain View this weekend, rematch of a game earlier in the regular season. You guys fell just a bit short on. What are you guys looking for going into that Mountain View game, quarterfinals of the playoffs?
We're just looking to make sure that both sides of the ball start out strong and keep the same intensity throughout the whole game. We're all just really excited, so it's going to be a good game.
All right, good luck in the game. Thank you.
So unfortunately, Highland fell just short in the quarterfinal game against Mountain View at Mountain View. I was in attendance for that game, and it was a very close game. Mountain View is a very good football team. They have some of the most athletic girls that I've seen play flag football. The physicality of that girls flag football, I'm sorry for being ignorant of I've never really. This is the first time I've actually gone to a game and watched girls flag football like in person. It's one of the most fun sports to watch. So I wish I would have seen it. I wish I would have seen it earlier and been able to go earlier, because that was one of the most fun experiences to watch the game. It was one of the most competitive environments, a playoff game, a quarterfinal game, and it lived up to all the hype. Unfortunately, the Hawks fell short 13-10 in the fourth quarter. It was a very close game, and I thought it was interesting to me because Highland. I had never obviously watched a lot of girls flag football, so I didn't know what the strategy is going into some of these games. And it was clear Highland's strategy was they were going to utilize the QB run. Alexis Ely is obviously a very athletic quarterback, obviously a dual sport athlete, as you heard. So she's going to utilize the run game, and so that made a lot of sense to me. So it was pretty successful for most of the game. And then a lot of screen passes, which I love. As an Arizona State fan, we've all seen it with Kenny Dillingham implementing those screen passes. And when they work, they look beautiful. And it really looked good. And on the defense side, they had a great game. Kenzie Egan came up with a big interception in that first half that really kept Mountain View off the board like a couple times. Mountain View was driving in that first half, and the Highland defense was able to step up and keep them off the board. And that was difficult because these Mountain View receivers, they were big, they were tall, and they had jumps. They could jump up and go catch the ball like big tight ends like we've seen. And it was very impressive to see how good of the receivers were and how good Highland did at defending them for 90% of the game. And unfortunately, that other 10% is kind of where the game fell apart for Highland. Highland up 10-3 in the fourth quarter, turns the ball over. Mountain View goes down and scores a touchdown on an unfortunate defensive error, just a miscommunication in the secondary, and so neither one of them really went for the ball, and the receiver just found the pocket. And what a throw by the Mountain View quarterback to tie the game for Mountain View. And Highland goes back down and throws, unfortunately, another interception. And that Mountain View just managed the clock and was able to kick a field goal to win the game. And Highland on the drive to go down and try to tie it was unable to get in field goal range. And so Highland's girls flag football season once again falls short to Mountain View for, I believe, the second straight year. And so it was an unfortunate loss. But the future for this team is so bright. They have a lot of juniors, a lot of potential returning players for this Highland girls flag football team. They're going to be very good next year, and I would not be shocked at all if I read it and say that they won the state championship. And so I think that comes down to all their great season comes down to all the players that they had here. And I just want to list off some of the all region players. Highland had so many all-region players. All of these players are on the first team all-region. Emily Searle, as a wide receiver, got all-region. Kylie Riggs, as a defensive player. Caitlin Saunders, Bella Cruz, all Highland's defense, very good. A lot of first-team players. And then Emily Searle is actually an all-region first-team player 2 times. 1 as a wide receiver and 2 as a kicker. I don't think I've ever seen that in Arizona high school sports, in which a player can get all-region first team for 2 separate positions. So congrats to all of them, and what a great season they had. And hoping you all play next year and bring a title home for the Hawks. And on the second team, you had Addie Lowe and Kenzie Egan, both on the defensive side, did an amazing job especially in that state champ. They were very noticeable players, and it was pretty obvious on how good Highland's defense was and how close they are. You can see that they're right there away from a state championship. So hopefully, with another year under some of these players' belt, not a lot of seniors on the team, they are going to be very successful going into next season, in which they have a lot of returners. And of course, it's hard not to talk about Region Player of the Year, Alexis Ely, who's also up for Arizona State Player of the Year for girls flag football. She was incredible this season through 28 touchdowns, ran 8 touchdowns in, and had over 3,000 yards passing, 500 yards rushing. What a season she had in her first season as quarterback for Highland girls flag football. And so, really, this Highland team was good all year long. And congrats to Alexis. I should have done that interview a few days later, because it came out the day after I filmed that interview that she was nominated for all region player of the year and player of the state possibly. So I should have waited on that interview, but it was nice to get to talk to her for this show, and just to get Highland athletics out there. You get some of these athletes that you don't always hear about in the mainstream high school sports media, because girls flag football is a very new sport, but it is growing, and it is probably one of my favorite sports already of high school sports, with the exception of soccer. Obviously, I play soccer, so a little bit biased there, but girls flag football has got to be up there. It is one of the most fun sports to watch, one of the most electric atmospheres I think I've been at a high school game, and there wasn't like huge student sections there yet. It was a Saturday morning, but still one of the most electric atmospheres to watch a football game. It was very, very fun to watch. And then, of course, congratulations to Coach Kenny Galladay, Region Coach of the Year, should honestly be Arizona State Coach of the Year. He has done an amazing job with this program, continuing from their success last year, taking over the program, and continuing to make them better. And so this girls flag football team is probably one of the great stories for Highland sports in the fall season. And hopefully Highland sports will have a good amount of a state championship as their best story for the winter season. But amazing job for all the fall sports teams, including our 2 football teams. And so now we're just going to move to the opinion section, just in general, of sports here for Talon Talk. And my one opinion that I want to get across, especially since we're talking about football in this episode, is this is a message to all coaches, all quarterbacks, and this is across all levels of football, not just high school, all the way from Pee Wee all the way up to the NFL. Stop rolling right-handed quarterbacks to their left. I've seen it throughout the season watching Highland boys football and against other teams, especially other teams do it a lot more. And even in girls flag football, both teams do it. Stop rolling right-handed quarterbacks to their left. It's not natural for them, and you can see it. It's never going to work. This is just for all coaches in general. It baffles me why coaches keep trying to roll right-handed quarterbacks to the left. You're not fooling it. You're not really fooling anybody, and you're just making it difficult on the quarterback. Not most of these quarterbacks at the high school level. They're not at the level of Aaron Rodgers. They're not at the level of Tom Brady. They can't make those kind of throws. So make it easier for them. Either keep them in the pocket. If they have to scramble to their left, that's one thing. But I don't think you should be designing plays rolling right-handed quarterbacks to their left. It just doesn't really make sense, and I think it has cost many teams in the state of Arizona games this year, including, I think it did not help in the girls flag football loss to Mountain View. I think one of the interceptions late in that fourth quarter was rolling to Alexis's left. And so I think if coaches can stop doing that, it'll be making football so much better to watch, so much more mistake-free. But that wraps up the opinion section of Jacob's Talon Talk here, and I think that wraps up episode 1 of Talon Talk with Jacob Fredericks, and I'll see you guys next week.